Hello to all of my creative entrepreneurs out there in the YouTube sphere. If you are looking to start a new project concerning a business, starting a new business, and you haven't yet gotten into the deeper levels of business and the experience of business, but you're looking for more answers and you're a little confused or uncertain, this video is for you. Today, I wanted to have a straight up talk with you. I like to do these unscripted talks, and just to give you some value added to your journey, your mission, your projects concerning your business. Today, I want to focus on the ability to pivot on a dime. Now, on my channel, I always talk about the art of iteration, right? And how iterations are at the core, right? And I mean intentional iterations. And what that means is you don't just make iterations when things go wrong just for the sake of making iterations, because you don't want to repeat mistakes, right? You want to learn from what you've done. You want to stand on the shoulders of giants, looking ahead to people who have gone before you and have already accomplished a great deal of progress and momentum in the particular domain that you're looking to do business in, right? Even if you have a unique business model, I'm pretty sure that there's something that can be extrapolated from people that have gone before you, because all principles are microcosms of one another. What that means is there are particular patterns that can be recognized in other domains that follow a set of foundational principles that are present in an evergreen way in almost any business model, right? Across all domains. And because of that, and I guess you would call it something like good old common sense, right? Or best practices in general, right? That simply spans across all business domains, right? Whatever that is. Pivoting on a dime is very important, because without having the ability to do that, the iteration process is going to be very difficult, and you may wind up being a bottleneck to your own business by not developing the skill of making decisions and not choices. And what that means is decisions means that once you make a move, it's done. There are no other options. You kill any other option but moving forward, because you know that this is a non-negotiable and it has to get done. And you're literally treating it like you're dying, right? And I'm not saying that you're going to set some sort of deadline for yourself or goal, because I don't think that that's really helpful. But I do believe on setting objectives, right? And I believe in holding yourself accountable when it comes to putting in inputs, because we can't control the outputs of a thing, but we absolutely can update, right, and optimize the inputs we put in if we don't like the outputs that we're getting. And when we put in the right inputs, they'll simply match the output that we're looking to achieve, right? That objective. So, we have to do things that make sense, right? We don't want to cause unnecessary friction. What I find really helps is developing the skill of asking better questions, because if you ask better questions, you get better action, which means you can take wiser. You get better answers, I apologize, which means you can take wiser actions. So ask better questions, get better answers, right? And one of the questions that I've learned to ask is who, not how, right? I read a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, and it was based on wanting to get things done for your objectives, your business, in a way that adds serious value. Because sometimes when you try to wear too many hats, you can, end up being a bottleneck for your business, and you can literally slow the momentum of your business. There are just some things that you suck at, some things that you hate to do, and some things that you're simply not cut out for, that your business absolutely needs. And the objective that you have aimed for in creating your business probably adds some serious value in the marketplace to a lot of people that need it. So why would you want to stand in the way of the pleasure of helping those people and them actually getting the value that they're so desperately seeking in some cases, right? Because a lot of these situations are painful that we're solving for, right? Which is why there's a high level of value that will be added when we develop these solutions. So anyway, you definitely want to ask who, not how, meaning instead of how do I get this thing done or how do I get around this barrier, ask who can help me better get around this barrier, or how can I reach my objective? Who can help me do this? Who is better suited in this specific area of this domain than I am, right? And understand when you look to people like Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, these were great thinkers, right? Great Imagineers, but there were things that they sucked at, and they actually partnered with the right people, right? And the right levels of experience within that domain, specialties, that could actually help them achieve their objectives, right? And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to absolutely ask those questions when it comes to pivoting, because sometimes it can be overwhelming, because if we run into a particular barrier as we're building out our business systems and we find that the information sounds a little overwhelming, well, understand that you cannot wear all hats. While in this day and age, and with the advent of more and more advanced AI technologies and advancements, yes, you can be a solopreneur and get a lot of things done with a team of agents. But this is what I really feel is wiser. And I feel like even as far as it goes into the future, I feel like human guided or human assisted AI will simply be far more powerful than a totally autonomous AI. Now, it could be a situation where human beings have created such a high level of practical intelligence within an AI system that a human could actually bottleneck it if they are an unnecessary piece. But I think that we have some time, to get there. In terms of total autonomy with AI. And I believe that AI guided systems, human guided AI systems are always going to be far more powerful than just simply total autonomous on AI systems. So I feel like you're always going to need those human thinkers, offering feedback, offering their take on a particular angle, offering their area of expertise. So I don't think that the advent of more and more advanced AI is going to disrupt humans' value in the marketplace. I just don't. I think that is going to be a testimony of how valuable human beings are. Because think about it, human beings and their imagination and their ability to execute is what allowed AI to even thrive and flourish now, right? So, and we know the more advanced that it does get, it's because of that human imagination. So to me, it makes human beings more valuable. And it's not that I'm, trying to be Pollyanna about it. There are going to be certain situations that if you don't up level your skill sets within the marketplace, it's going to be obsolete. That's within any domain, right? Moving forward as things advance. If you don't upgrade your skill set, of course you're going to become obsolete. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you have a person that is platform agnostic, they are very, very malleable in terms of leveraging and adapting to what works currently in the marketplace. If you have a person like that really loves getting down, solving problems, solving puzzles, and adding value, you can't lose, with a human mind like that. That's what I'm saying. I feel like AI, and as it becomes more and more advanced, doesn't make humans obsolete. It actually makes them more valuable. And that's just how I see it, because it's the human mind and imagination that created it. So it's a testimony of how important humans are. I think that when they're operating at higher levels of expression and their God-likeness, right, their imagination and creativity, I think that that's what makes us very, very powerful and very, very useful here in the marketplace. So, okay, I want to get back to pivoting on a dime. Pivoting on a dime is developing the skill and the self-awareness to really pull yourself out of a situation emotionally and to look at it objectively, right? What am I doing wrong here? What did I miss? And like I said, more importantly, who can help me get back on track or get around this barrier, right? You have to be able to move hyper quickly. Now, even if something is a little bit more costly and you may not have the financial resources or the credit yet to deal with, but there are steps you can take, the sooner you can start taking those steps, the better. So pivoting on a dime is very, very essential in this. There is no way that you're going to be able to perform the proper iterations if you don't have the developed mental capacity to pivot on a dime. And I said that for a reason that way, developed, because even if you don't have it and you're a little bit emotionally reactive, you can work on yourself. You can become a stronger person and a more objective individual. I used to be a very emotionally reactive person. I used to be a horrible communicator. I used to only look at the fact that I wanted it to end well for both parties involved in whatever situation, but I would fail to hear the other side out. And so they can let me see that there's something that I'm missing and I'm absolutely shooting myself in the foot, right? Doesn't matter what my intentions are. If they know better on a situation or if I got something wrong, I need to slow down, stop being emotional and reactive and listen, right? And listen, ask questions, right? And wait for an answer and not just jump out there to get my idea across, right? Really not being a really good active listener and therefore an effective communicator. You have to do that. Pivoting on a dime is going to be the best thing that you ever will do for your business and life. Because sometimes you may take up an approach to try to repair a family relationship or whatever the situation, even outside of business. And you may have to pivot on a dime to something else. Because here's what we do know. Even though we develop awarenesses, knowledge, and skills, all it does is expose us to a lot of information and a lot of knowledge that we don't have access to currently, right? In other words, the more we get to know, the more we know we don't know that we don't know, right? So humility is always at the key of this. That's why I said humility is a superpower. Humility and self-awareness, right? That ability to be honest with yourself is a superpower. You know what I'm saying? Which will allow you to pivot on a dime much faster, which will allow you to make much more streamlined and optimize iterations, right? Because you don't want to repeat more of what didn't work, right? You want to immediately take that, chalk that up as an awareness, and you want to avoid that at all costs. And like I said, sometimes you may think that you might have to abandon certain things, and then you come back later on in your iterations and realize that it wasn't that you overlooked something. But that is why humility is important. The ability to admit that there's a possibility that you could get something wrong, that you could be wrong, and being willing to change those behaviors according to that new knowledge, that new truth that you've actually become aware of, being able to change accordingly in alignment with that truth. That is the power of humility when it comes to giving you that fuel for pivoting on a dime, right? I've simply gotten better at it. Like I said, I used to be a bottleneck to myself in a lot of ways. I used to shoot myself in the foot with a lot of bad habits. And I can honestly say, as a follower of Christ, and I don't care when it comes to all aspects of my life, when I got saved is when I become more hyper vigilant, disciplined, more active in my resourcefulness and creativity. As a follower of Christ, receiving his spirit, I have to admit, because I had so many bad habits that was working against my God-given abilities, man, and it was just really difficult to break them, without God's assistance. I needed it, right? So I'm gonna be honest. Now, my vices may not be your vices. You may have certain things that you need God's assistance with, and salvation would absolutely help you to break that bondage. But for me, I had horrible habits that would have literally decimated my future progress had I not been saved. I'm not saying I wouldn't been able to get momentum, but I would have ultimately, destroyed myself. Not even just spiritually, but on many levels, especially financially. I just was not good financially. But I had an awareness that I needed to improve and to develop myself to become more financially astute. But I still was like a modern day prodigal son, right? So I'm just using myself as an example, which I was like I said, I became a bottleneck to me being able to pivot on a dime, even though I knew it was necessary. So I had a healthy mindset and understanding towards having to be more flexible, having to be honest with myself, but I still would stagnate the progress, right, with those poor habits. And I learned that how we do anything is how we do everything. And those patterns just have a ripple effect. You know what I mean? And it really touches every aspect of our lives. And listen, I hold myself to the fire as well. I'm not just preaching here, right? It keeps me better. And that's why, what we promote in our brand is so important, because it's based in the truth of God's word, right? And it absolutely transformed my life. And it's a non-negotiable. It's going to, it's needed for anyone to have true success in their life, because it was actually created by the actual creator of the universe, right? So we know we need his guidance and his truth. So that's exactly what I'm promoting. Sorry for that. I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. But I'm telling you guys, pivoting on a dime is going to be one of the best skills that you absolutely develop. Because like I said, hand in hand with that is humility. Humility is so amazing. Just being able to admit that you get it, you got it wrong, and being able to do that very quickly will allow you to be able to get it right quickly. Right. And so I just wanted to get that message to you guys, and I hope you have a great one. Until next time.